Do it.
All right, we're on.
There it is.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Weekly Anabolic. This is episode 6, and just for transparency, we recorded this once already, and we forgot to hit the record button.
Yes.
So
yes, we did.
We're doing it again, and it's gonna have completely different information than the last time.
Yep. We're doing it live.
But anyway, welcome back. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, or if you're listening, give us a good old rating and review. We would greatly appreciate it. So I think today we're probably just gonna rock some good old fashioned Q&A. Try and run through some questions that we've got, and hopefully give you guys some maybe beneficial information. I have no idea. We're gonna find out.
Some food for thought.
Ooh, we all like food. It's off season.
This is true.
All
Speaking
right.
of food, you got your cream of wheat there?
I finished it.
Oh, that was so quick. I
Dude,
didn't even see you eat it.
I crush cream of wheat
When
every
did
time.
you eat that?
Just big spoon, very little water.
Don't think.
It's weird.
Just swallow.
It's kind of like sand, but it's really enjoyable.
Yeah, it's like tasty sand.
It is a tasty sand. Yeah, that maple brown sugar cream of wheat. 2 packets, 60 grams of carbs, a little bit of peanut butter in there.
Oh yeah.
Top-notch meal.
Mwah.
Ooh, and if you're feeling extra spicy and you're really trying to pack on some weight or maybe even a pre-workout, throw banana in there and then also put honey in it.
Oh.
And then you've got like 100-gram a carb meal.
Do you slice that banana or do you mush mash all up in you?
No, I slice it. I do the little discs, little banana discs.
That's kind of nice. That's kind of nice.
It's elegant.
I'm kind of jealous, dude. I haven't experienced the maple brown sugar cream of wheat. I've literally only had like bland ass cream of wheat. So this is definitely going to be. I'm actually going to go to the grocery store after I work with Kev. Probably I'm going to pick up some
up.
Brown sugar. Yeah, no lie.
Yeah, no, it's a game changer for sure. Yeah, because plain is awful.
Plain is awful. Vomity awful.
Yeah. But let's hit some questions. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's do it.
I've got like 100, so.
All right. So because I didn't ask if I could ask these questions on the podcast, I just won't mention the name of who asked it. The first question is going to be, what are some good ab workouts that don't target hip flexors or low back as much?
It's really tough because everything in there connects. And to contract your abs. I don't know. Do you have? You told me you were thinking about this one. So
yeah, it's not really fair.
I don't know
if
if I
give you too much
actually
time to
have
think
a good
about
answer.
this. But to the person who asked this is a really good question, and I'm usually like pretty quick to answer some questions, but this one definitely had me thinking for a little bit. I was thinking less so about structure and more so about cueing and kind of the internal and external cues that people give themselves when they do abs. So the first thing that I'll say is that I guess for the low back is if you're feeling your low back, your hips are most likely tilted anteriorly. So you kind of have an arch in that low back. Usually when you're doing any core movement, you want those hips tilted the opposite way, a posterior tilt, so that you don't have an arch in that low back. So that should take out the low back out of the equation. So that should kind of solve that problem. And then when it comes to the hip flexors, that one it almost duped me. Might still be duping me. I'm not even saying that this is the answer. But what I would say is that, like, let's say you're doing like hanging leg raises, right? Your hip flexors are obviously responsible for a little bit of that like upper leg flexion. They do assist with that, but at the same time, it's kind of like a core movement. So what I'm thinking is that maybe it's just more so, instead of thinking like just get my legs up and use whatever the heck I can to shift the the focus a little bit more internal and making sure that you're really actually just using the abdominals to contract things. So maybe slowing down and thinking about actually contracting with the abdominals first, opposed to maybe the hip flexors first, because the muscle that moves first is going to be the prime mover. Whatever starts moving first is kind of like what you're kind of summoning, so to speak. So like if your hip flexors are kind of the first things to move there, and especially if you have like that arch in your low back, if you're kind of already in that anterior pelvic tilt or that Kim K butt, so to speak, then you're probably just going to like lead directly up with your knees, and your hip flexors are probably going to be the first things that come into play. So tilt your hips underneath you, scared dog butt, or old man butt, however you want to say it. Lock your abdominals in, and then try to raise the knees up, opposed to just like kind of letting it all hang and then just trying to raise your knees up. Because then you're probably going to incorporate a little bit more hip flexor than anything else. So instead of finding movements that don't incorporate it, try to just not incorporate it during your movements by slowing things down and maybe tilting those hips just a little bit. That's kind of what I was thinking about. You have anything to add?
Yeah, I think you got to look at why the question is being asked, I guess. Um, because I don't.
And can I interject real quick?
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
feel like like what you just said there, like I feel like the ab movements that you are doing are probably solid and fine ab movements to do. It's just your hip flexors are the bottleneck and they get in the way. So then you don't want to do that exercise because your hip flexors get in the way. But in reality, maybe it's just the hip flexors that are just getting a little bit more action than what actually should be. So the focus should be shifted, maybe.
Yeah, you should try and get to the root cause of, why you're having issues probably feeling your abs. And likely it comes from your intent of movement. Um, or
Yeah.
you're so tightly bound through your hips, and you just don't have the mobility to properly do the movement. And then that is what is causing um, what I would assume would be pain or discomfort, which is why you're asking the question. Um, it's hard to know without the surrounding information, um, but likely it has more to do with your lack of control and stability through your hip, um, and lack of intent when initiating a movement.
Yeah.
So really any ab movement is fine, but you got to take a look and see if you're actively doing the movement with with purpose for your abs and not
Yeah.
just doing the movement to do the movement.
Yeah.
Um, if you wanted to not do a direct ab movement, all the compounds require you to brace.
Yeah,
You know,
that's another thing. That's also what it like.
and those compounds are very demanding of low back, hip flexor stability and control. So it doesn't get around the exact question. Um, but if you just like don't like doing ab exercises, just make sure you're bracing in your compounds and your abs will be fine.
Yeah, like how many like when someone comes up to me and they ask me like good ab exercises, like
Tell
the
them
the
deadlifts.
abdominals, the abdominals are like any other muscle. If you do work them out, they will get a little bit bigger. But like there's a difference between like wanting to focus on that abdominal musculature to grow it versus it playing its role in those big lifts, like you just said, like for your deadlifts and for your squat. Like if you're front squatting and then you're just like totally getting folded like a long chair because your core is just not functioning
It just can't
properly
handle
with
it.
that
Yeah.
load there. Yeah, like just doing like some sit-ups and some curl ups won't help that problem. Like it won't. It just doesn't translate that way. You have to kind of figure out how to use your core in those
In the
movements
movement pattern.
properly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That is what will actually give you a really strong core, not
Yeah.
doing like endless sit-ups and curl ups.
Yeah. And if the question is being asked in relation to just wanting abs, you likely just need to lose body fat.
Also true. Yep. Yeah.
So there is something to be said for having some thicker abs, will help, sure. But really, if you want to display your abs, you have to be at a low enough percentage body fat.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it also is pretty genetic on where you store your body fat. If you store your body fat right in your stomach, you're probably going to have to get pretty lean to reveal them.
Yeah.
So also, kind of be aware of that. And that takes some time learning your body to understand, where you actually store fat.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, just train with intent, make sure that you aren't looking at doing abs as just a face value of if I train them, they'll show up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because that's not quite how that works. And I think that message has been shared enough. I think that's pretty well preached. People love saying abs are made in the kitchen and all that stuff. Um, so we don't really have to get too deep into that. But um, yeah, there's many avenues to displaying your abs, but most of it is just body fat related
Yeah. Yep.
because the musculature is there, right?
Yes. Yeah. Everyone has them.
You don't just not have abs. It's
Yeah.
it's the same thing as like, well, literally any other muscle on your body.
Mm.
It's not that it's not there. It's just it's either fully covered in body fat, so it's not defined the way that you see it on social media, which makes you think you don't have it, or it's not big enough.
Yeah.
Um, but likely it's number one.
The four. Do you train abs?
I don't actually.
Me neither.
Yeah, yeah. I don't train abs. I probably should a little bit. I think I could use some ab thickness, just because I have to be pretty lean, like really pretty lean, for my abs to like naturally show up.
Mm-hmm.
They'll show up when I contract them, but resting abs, I have to be pretty deep into a diet for them to show up. So I could use a little bit more thickness just for them to be more present, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I'm a little bit more focused currently on making sure that my midsection stays tight. Um, so I don't want them to get thick,
Mm-hmm.
right? I don't want thick obliques.
Yeah.
So that'll be a detail later down the road to work on. You
Yeah.
know, they're very strong, which is really all I need them for. Is I just need them to be strong so that I can perform my compound movements and
Yeah.
not fold,
Yeah.
right? And,
We
and they
definitely
they
err on
handle
that
that
side.
fine,
Yeah. Yeah. We're definitely more so on that functional side of the spectrum
right?
than the training side. And don't get us wrong, like our doesn't mean that we're, if anything, our core is a little bit stronger than most people that actually do train their core, in my opinion. Dude, it's always
From
amazed
from
me like
from a
when,
functional standpoint, yeah,
yeah, from a functional standpoint, for sure. Yeah. Like I'm not saying that I could probably like spinal flex like 200 pounds like easily, but you know, it works on my RDLs and it works on my squats
right,
and everywhere
right.
else.
I
So
I'm not gonna win a crunch off with anybody,
yeah, yeah,
okay?
exactly. No,
But I'll do just fine in the compound movements,
yeah,
which
exactly.
is that's what matters to me in my training,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
Which is another piece. You should look at what actually matters to you.
yeah,
Because
yeah. Like
that's what
if,
you should base your training around. That's what you should base your diet around. You
hmm
gotta, you have to. We can say all of these different things and what we do, and everything that we speak on is generally through our own paradigm and our training and what we're trying to do, which is very similar between the both of us.
yeah,
Um, but you have to kind of take this advice and then put it through your paradigm and what your goals are.
yeah, yeah. Like everyone has different goals. Like if your goal is to be able to win the crunch off, then
Right.
you should be crunching every
You
day.
should probably be doing crunches.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Um,
Right.
but if your goal is to not fold like a lawn chair underneath a, like a good amount of weight,
You should
then you
probably
should
just practice not folding like a lawn chair.
exactly. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So,
Um, if you could, what ab exercises would you do? Like if you could choose like the three, maybe two staples, because I have my two staples.
hanging leg raises.
Yes. Yep.
And then I actually really like kneeling cable crunches.
Interesting.
Yeah. They were just one that like kind of clicked with me,
Mm.
and so I enjoy them. I
Yeah.
don't do them very often,
I
but
mean,
I definitely do hanging leg raises far more than any other leg exercise.
okay.
When I was dieting down, I had this thing every session I just did 10 hanging leg raises. That was it.
That
Like
should do it.
it was one set and I just did 10 just to
One
like
set,
work
10
them and
reps.
that was it.
Fair enough, man. If it helps you sleep at night.
It did. It did. It made
Okay.
me feel like, yeah, maybe my abs will show up.
Good.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I was in diet crackhead brain going on, so
Yes, I need this.
ah, it's
This is exactly what
working.
will work. It's working.
It's working. Yeah, it was funny actually. The first time that I did them, dude, I was sore for like 3 days.
Yeah,
I
right?
did 10. I did 10.
Yeah.
I was sore for so many days. I was like, this is
Yeah.
awful. This is
Yeah.
why I don't do abs.
Yeah. I'm good. Yeah, I'm
Like
just thinking about Courtney
every
now.
time you laugh or cough or sneeze or literally anything, just hurts.
Dude, I puked a couple days ago
What?
and I like pulled my groin puking. Like it like cramped up. My groin cramped up. It was the weirdest thing. Yeah, it was like right after my leg day. I think what happened was I just drank a little bit too much. There was just too much liquid. Too much
Yeah,
liquid. So yeah,
that good for you, man.
I kind of yeah, I spaced my liquids and I also reduced them just a little bit so that I'm not drinking like 20 ounces right before the gym of just like pre-workout, carbs,
Yeah.
amino acids, creatine, yay. Like, and then I like go do legs and like hold my breath under like, under, like
Yeah.
300 pounds.
You
Yeah,
stand up and it all just comes out.
I got a little queasy. I definitely got a little queasy. But after I puked though, I was like brand new.
Yeah, you felt great.
Yeah. Yep, brand new.
Yeah, I always try and be pretty cautious about what goes in my stomach, like just before training,
Yeah.
especially on leg day.
Especially on leg day. Yeah, those are the only
Yeah.
2 days I've actually puked. I've never puked before. Like pre-quarantine, I've never puked my entire life. And now that I'm training, I'm not saying it's the mask. But now that I've been training though, I puke now, which is fucking kind of weird. I don't
That's a
know.
little
And
weird.
yeah, it gets me a little uneasy now. And I'm like I'm much more cautious now, especially after the second time that this has happened to me, dude.
Yeah.
I'm playing it safe, yeah. Because I
Huh.
was just like, I puked and I was like, my calories, no. Like
No!
I had like some rice come up with that, and I was
That's
like,
the
no,
most,
I gotta
that's
eat
the
that
most
later.
meathead thing ever. My calories.
Yeah. Also, not to get if you guys are easily grossed out, just skip like 30 seconds ahead. But you know how that pre-workout tastes, right? And you
Oh
know
yeah.
how, oddly enough, hear me out, the EAAs and the intra-carb kind of tasty. I'm not saying it was tasty, but it wasn't disgusting. Like it wasn't
Was it
like
bad?
acid disgusting. Like I'm
Yeah.
gonna puke just from like puking. You know what I mean? Like one of those. It was like, oh, okay, I'm done. Like that actually wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
Like could have tasted way worse. All right. Hopefully that was.
Oh,
Hopefully you
that's
fast forwarded just enough in time.
yeah, that was probably good, the right amount.
All right.
Oh
Have
God,
we
that's
killed the
too.
ab question? Oh, my two ab exercises would be hanging leg raise as well.
Yes.
And oddly enough, a low decline, not a super high incline or decline, crunch. So
Yeah, I
low
like
decline.
those as well. Those are a good one.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And those are my two.
All right. I'll go. I got a lot.
Hey, as usual.
Competing When competing for the first time,
Oh no.
should you do it natural, or should you just go straight to being enhanced?
I'm gonna just say straight up, you should definitely do that natty.
Okay, I actually have an it depends to this.
I do have an it depends as well, actually. Can I retract my answer?
Go ahead.
So if you've been training for like 1 year, then you're doing it natty.
Yeah.
Natty. All right. And if you've been training for like 10 years, you're probably getting to some limit of yours and you're probably experienced enough and you're working with a coach and they can control the drugs and all that, all that mumbo jumbo, then yes, I would not be as opposed to that. But if you're like a beginner lifter, if you're a novice, I would say that you'd have to be in that expert, very, very, very high intermediate. I wouldn't even really say intermediate. Honestly, you should really be like low expert, on that low expert spectrum, in my opinion. Because like the high intermediate, they can like hit their meals and things like that, but like they could just tighten up just a little bit more. And then I think like once you tighten that up just a little bit more, like your meals are on point, your training is on point, your recovery is on point, then, I would say that it's okay. Because I think those hold more priority over gear.
Yeah. Um,
What do you think?
my answer is pretty similar. Um, if you just like you went with some buddies to a show one time, just to like a local show, and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna be a bodybuilder. I would not advise that would make you decide to go enhanced.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't trained, but you're just like, you saw a show and you're like, I'm going to be a bodybuilder. That was awesome. Train, get good at training, get strong, develop as much as you can. Um, and I'll explain why, you know, I'll explain one reason why that is probably the right thing to do. And it comes from a longevity standpoint. When you move to enhanced and you haven't been training for a while, taking PEDs, they will increase your strength so quickly, and your joints and ligaments aren't going to have enough time to actually catch up to that strength.
Yeah.
And you're just going to end up with a lot of injuries down the road.
Yeah, dude, I've seen that so much. I see it in
Right.
my gym a lot. Like guys
Yeah,
are
it
like,
happens
"Oh,
a
my
ton.
elbows." Yeah.
Right. It happens all the time because your muscles develop so quickly from being enhanced, but steroids don't go to your joints and ligaments and and
Yeah.
um so that is one major reason not to go enhanced right off the start if you're new to training. Um when you might go enhanced, right when you're going to do your first competition, if you've been training for a long time, you're pretty strong, you're very capable, you've been doing this for a while, and you've just kind of teeter-tottered back and forth. You've been natural the whole time,
Hmm.
and you're like, yeah, maybe I'll compete, yeah, maybe I won't. And then, you're good at training, you're probably in the upper echelon of the people that are in your gym already, unless you're in like a bodybuilding specific gym.
Yeah.
Um, you're probably in the upper echelon of people there. And in that case, if you really have the goal to be, competitive, go after your pro card, then yeah, it's probably okay to go ahead and be enhanced.
Yeah.
But that is definitely a conversation to have with your coach.
Totally. 100%.
Yep. Um,
Definitely.
I really don't advise anybody doing a cycle without a coach, especially off the start. As you get further into your career, and if you've been enhanced for a while, that's very different. You've gone through your cycles, you know what to expect. But your first cycle should be very basic. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, if it's not, probably question it. Likely, most coaches will have your first cycle just be test.
I'm
It'll
very
be
delicate.
a very low dose of testosterone.
Yeah. Yeah, like if
See
your
how
coach is
see how you
throwing
react.
everything at you, that's
Yeah,
bad.
yeah. See how you react. How your body handles it, what effects you kind of get, and then after that, then things progress. But if you have a coach and they instantly just throw you on a whole bunch of stuff, knowing it's your first cycle, and they don't know your body on steroids because it's your first cycle, walk away. Walk away.
Yeah.
It's not a game to just play around with.
Yep. I've had those locker room conversations
Yeah.
where it's kind of like, oh, like you're trying to get big, like, oh, like what's your goals? Like, oh, I'm just trying to put on some muscle mass. Like, oh yeah, well, what are you trying to do? And it's like, you're trying to compete. Yeah, I'm trying to compete. All right, cool. Well, like once we get your digestion right, like, like once your digestion gets right, like that's when it all happens. And then we'll give you a little bit of gear, a little bit of
Yeah.
winch draw, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And like this has literally happened to me. This was a conversation that I had from digestion to performance enhancing drugs, like in one sentence. He was like, "Well, get your digestion right," and then, or she, not gonna say whatever, and then they were like, yeah, and then once we get your digestion right, like we'll just put you on like 5 different things. And it's like, all right, that's a walkaway scenario.
Yeah.
What do you think about like the younger? I feel like I've been saying this a lot. I don't know if it's just because there's the information is of better quality and it's also more accessible that kids that are a little bit younger, like, that are like 15 to let's say like 18, somewhat in that like just starting period.
Yeah.
I've found that most of them are kind of jacked now and they're pulling like mad weight. And, like I said, there's a good amount of information out there now. It's much more accessible and the quality of it is also much better. There is some misleading stuff out there. So that could be why these kids just look like like just jacked. I don't know. But like, I think some of them might be taking some sort of PED. Doesn't necessarily have to be test, but like I think some of them, I think SARMs is like a big thing now.
Yeah, I think it's bullshit. I'm gonna be honest. I don't. Well, okay, maybe
You
not
think
bullshit.
SARMs are bullshit, or you think that these kids are probably not anything?
Oh, I think SARMs are pretty bullshit.
I also think SARMs are bullshit.
Um,
There are some
you
people
know,
that swear by them too,
I know. I
but
think do they do something? Probably,
meh,
maybe.
meh.
Um,
Yeah,
but in comparison to actual gear,
nothing. Yeah,
not even close.
non-comparable.
Not even close.
Yeah,
You do
and you
not
can still
see
get side effects.
Yeah, you do not see any professional bodybuilder preaching SARMs.
No.
Not a single one, right? They're all just every single person that preaches SARMs just seems to be a YouTube star.
Yeah, a get rich quick. And funny thing, they all wear Gymshark shirts. It's
Everyone.
almost like the Gymshark community has created this like regiment, like a SARM regiment, where it's like hop on this SARM regiment, do some sumos, bench as hard as you possibly can, don't squat ever. Like,
And
okay,
wear this super tight clothing.
yeah. And that's kind of what I see. And I see it as a get rich quick scheme. I think it has a lot of holes in it.
Yeah, it's
Um,
like an MLM.
Yeah, it's kind of like an MLM. It's kind of like come to the dark side.
Right,
Yes, you'll get
exactly.
gains for like 3 months and then
Yeah.
they'll go away.
Well, it's
I don't necessarily like. I'm not taking away from anyone that uses them because like if you're gonna do something, you do it. And
right.
it's kind of just based off of kind of what you're familiar with, the scenarios that you're going through, this, that, the other, that kind of lead you to that decision, and whatever. It could be a good learning experience, but just like it's definitely like if you're thinking about longevity and things like that, like Brady was kind of saying with the whole joint thing, there are still other side effects that come with them as well. And then when you're not on them, just like kind of other like gear, like serious stuff, it's like when you're not on them, you don't feel as bulletproof and you're probably not going to take your off seasons as serious. So, or your prep or whatever the heck whatever stage you're in. but it's kind of like you can only make progress or like you're only going to be good if you have that to sit on. If you have that PED, that will help you. And then when you're on the off season, it's kind of like, whatever. We're not doing anything. No gains.
Okay. Yeah.
I
Waste
Fuad
of
though.
off season.
I listen to Fuad now a lot actually.
Yeah. It's pretty good.
Yeah, they've got an awesome podcast.
Yeah.
He has James
Shout out
on.
to the Real Bodybuilding Podcast with
Hell
Fua.
yeah. Hell yeah.
He's the guy.
They talk about like he'll talk about his cycles and things like that, and he talks about like once he's off, that's like his time to grow. Like he tries to grow as much as he can.
Yeah.
Once he's like off that cycle, because he doesn't want to go the opposite way. Like you don't gear up and then just lose all that weight for no goddamn reason.
Yeah.
Gear up and then what he tries to do is just like go up another level, kind of put on a little bit more mass so that you don't lose that tissue that you have. But like, dude, the people that are taking SARMs generally aren't the ones that are completely on top of their shit. Their sleep is probably really poor. They're probably eating their meals, but their training is most likely shit as well. They're just kind of going in there,
That can
throwing
be
everything
expected
they
for most
can against the
people,
wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah. But that was a lot of PED talk.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Food for
I
thought,
hope.
guys. Food for thought.
Yeah, I hope that answered that question. Just because I know a lot of people just kind of expect that within the bodybuilding community, you should just go straight to being enhanced if you plan to be competitive, and that's not always the case. Once you get into, really competitive, yeah, generally it is something that is taken on, but there is a natural division as well. So if it's just not for you, then that's okay. You can still be competitive.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
And I think the other thing is muscle maturity as well. Like it takes time for your muscle bellies, like the girthiest part of the muscle, like they'll say that's the belly, so to speak. So like if you made a
yeah,
bicep, like where you're the girthiest, or the thickest is kind of like where that muscle belly is. And like if you're a beginner lifter, your muscle bellies are very, very, very underdeveloped. So it's like I can literally see like it looks off because these dudes don't have like very well developed muscle bellies, but they're
hmm
just big now. They're just like
yeah,
big. So, it kind of throws things off just a little bit. So, it's always good to just like give your body some time to fully mature with the muscle bellies and everything like that and your joints and stuff before you really kind of dig into or think about other things.
yeah. And you should learn how to train first too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Like
I
that
know.
should the
Dude.
all of the other pieces that we generally talk about definitely should be a priority first. Your sleep,
Mhm.
your diet, your training, all of those things should be perfectly in a row and maximized before you really take that step, because that's what's going to maximize when you
Mhm.
do transition over. That's what's going to get you the results that you're expecting.
Yeah, exactly.
If you don't have those other things in line, yes, being enhanced will just gain you some more just by the nature of how they work, but it's not going to make you competitive all of a sudden. It's
No.
it's not going to make you an Olympia
Yeah.
competitor.
It's not going to fix your
Right?
sleep. It's not going to fix the
Yeah.
way you train. It's not going to fix your diet.
So get your natural ducks in a row first
Yeah.
before adding in enhanced ducks.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like a house. Like if you were to like when you're building a house and imagine it's on like four columns on each corner, you want to make sure that those columns are like thick as hell and super stable
Yeah.
because then you're gonna build on top of it a few levels, right? And it's like
Yeah,
a
you
lot of
need your
these
good
dudes are
foundation.
walking, yeah, their foundation is like on stilts kind of, and they think that just like throwing gear on it is going to fix that. But in reality, you're just putting more levels of that building on top of those stilts. And eventually it's going to catch up to you, whether it's your joints or your mental health or, this, that, the other.
Yeah. For sure. I think we got that one.
I think so. I think we killed it.
Yeah, we should move on.
I agree.
Did you have another question?
I did. I did. Where you been, big dog? Haven't seen you at Worlds. No, not that one. um, all right. This one is going to be a fun one, I think. Train to form failure for only isolations or for everything?
I think this is a question where I apply you have to learn the rules before you can break the rules.
Mm-hmm.
And form is one of those rules. If you are new to training, probably stop at form failure
Yeah.
on everything. That way you don't do something stupid trying to squeeze out one more rep
Mm-hmm.
and then be off from the gym for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Um, if you are an advanced lifter, I think um, I don't know, form failure is a little bit tough. Oh,
Sorry.
because with form failure, we have form breakdown. Um, but I think, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yeah, I
Okay,
totally can.
okay.
Sorry.
Because I'm gonna ask your input on this. Where do you consider form failure? Right. So let's talk about a deadlift. Right. What is form failure on a deadlift? Is it at the point that you're fish pulled? Is it at the point that you're starting to get some shaking to complete a rep up at the top? Is it um, starting to get or lose a neutral scap position? Is it you change your balance over center foot? There's varying degrees of where I guess failure could be judged.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think when you're an advanced lifter, you can kind of push the degradation of form for an extra rep or two. Um, but being in an or when you're an advanced lifter, you also know how far is too far. Like fish pulling is too far.
Way too far. Yeah.
But something like, you know, you're starting to shake at the top of reps, that's okay. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you're still holding it together.
Yeah.
Um, so it's you got to learn and master the rules before you can break them.
Yeah.
With isolation movements, I don't think there's a point to go past form failure. Um, like a bicep curl, for instance. It's if you want to take it that far, just do a drop set and keep form,
Yeah.
right? Don't waste energy or output on recruiting other muscles in an isolation movement just to perform a rep.
Yeah.
But something in like a compound, a deadlift, for instance, you can push that boundary a little bit further, as long as you've had the time to instill a certain standard within yourself and a rep quality, right? That even when oh, pardon me, even
Oh.
when um, you start to degrade and wear out, you're still holding true to most of your cues and how a rep is supposed to be standardized,
Yeah.
right? So I guess that's my answer to that question. Is if you're new, probably stop at form failure. Um, as you've learned how you can push the boundaries a little bit, it's okay to do so on major movements.
Yeah. I kind of completely agree um, with you there. I'm gonna go to my train track analogy, which is Like if you could imagine the train is on the track and then you've got those, I don't even know what they're called. Not even the rails. I should probably learn my train anatomy a little bit better. But basically you
You're
have
gonna
those
use it.
rails before I use this more. But
Yeah.
basically you have like those beams that run it like across the wheels on the train, and they kind of just move in one motion. And then you've got this guy in the middle of the cart, and he's got the coal, and he's scooping the coal into the fire, and it's letting the train do its thing. Basically, like when you get to the end of your set, you've kind of just run out of coal, but those train tracks don't do anything else. Like Brady was saying, like if you need to, like if you're bicep curling on those isolation exercises, it's really easy to figure out if you can do one more or not. It's a little bit harder to figure out if you have one more in the tank if you're doing like a leg extension or like a leg press or something like that. But like on an isolation movement, you're probably not going to bicep curl anything past like that true last rep unless you like swing the elbow, use the pec, use the shoulder to really kind of grunt things up there. That I would definitely say is that's too far broken down. Um, but then, at the same time, keeping things way too tight might not allow wiggle room for progression in certain areas. So I do think that it's okay to step just slightly outside of those parameters. But like you said before, you have to learn these things. You have to learn these rules before you go ahead and break them.
Yeah.
And when we say break them, like we don't actually like we do this very intelligently. Like it's not like, oh, one more, one more, one more. Like screw it. Just like if I blow my back out, it's okay.
It's
Like it's not
okay.
like that. It's we're not going to the point where we want to fishbowl, but like, if you come up a little bit or if you go down a little bit and you have like a little bit of like sway in that like mid to low back, like just a little bit, like that's okay. It's all
All right.
right. Everything's okay. But,
Still in
if you
control.
start fish pulling, then that's not okay. So if you keep it tight, let's say you're on the deadlift and you keep it really tight and you've done one and you're like, oh, Jesus, I don't know if I can do one more, right? Pretty much stay as tight as humanly possible and try to lift it again, but stay as tight as humanly possible and don't detract outside of um, the rep standard that you normally would. If you only get halfway up that deadlift, you just drop it. You don't fish pull and continue to pull. You just kind of it just ends there. That's just where your set ends. You've run out of coal and your tracks have stopped, and that is kind of like where I would say like that's kind of where things end. Um, Bottom line, though, I think that just training towards failure on all movements, form failure on all movements, is pretty important because what are you just gonna like leave 5 reps in the tank? Like, when do you ever just like leave 5 to 10 reps in the tank after a
Yeah.
set? You're take it to where it needs to go, which is typically like a rep or two away from failure.
Yeah.
Um, that's well said.
You should always be approaching that edge, right?
Yeah, yeah. I liked what you said. Have a standard for the quality of movement. So, like, fishpole should be that red spectrum. It should be red on that red needle, and then
Yeah.
like you should have like a nice green needle and a yellow area for these things. Where like green is extremely tight, and then
Yeah.
yellow things are like kind of loosening up just a little bit, and then red is like you're done. Don't do anything. Fishpole.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. That was a good question.
That was a good question. I
Yeah.
don't think he's gonna mind if I shout him out. Shout out to Steve Burke.
Nice. All right. I got a bunch. So, optimal calorie surplus in an off season.
Mm.
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 Ooh.
Okay. And how so? I
How so?
Yeah. So the only reason why I asked how so, just feel like it would be really individual for everyone.
Yep.
If we're talking about maintenance, um, I would say that there is when you're approaching a mass, I guess, and you could think about it like this. If you could just shove as much food as humanly possible in your mouth and gain as much weight as you possibly could in like 10 days, you could do it. Right? You could gain like 30 pounds in 10 days if you really tried. Well, not 30 pounds, but
You can
like
gain.
you can gain mad weight in a very short amount of time, but it doesn't mean it's going to look very nice.
Yeah. I mean, you can gain 30 pounds overnight.
Yeah, like
It's gonna be
I'm
a
not
lot of
doing that.
water.
I'm not doing that. I have a friend that did that though. Like he literally went up like 25 pounds in like 2 days.
Yeah,
After a show, of course.
right.
It was a
Crazy.
hard reverse out, real quick, not slow. Um, in my opinion, I think a surplus should be only what is necessary for you to carry your surplus. So you don't want to go too fast and you don't want to go too slow. You don't want your caloric surplus to be too much to the point where you're putting on an unnecessary amount of fat because that will just put you in the hole down the line when you want to take off that fat. And then you obviously don't want something too slow where maybe your lifts are like plateauing like every other week, and then you just have to keep adjusting every other week.
Yeah. So, my piece to kind of add to this is if you want the longest off season you can possibly have, you don't want to be incredibly high amount over your maintenance. You want
Yeah.
to be in a surplus, you know, couple hundred, 500 calories, maybe over surplus. I mean, over maintenance, right?
Yeah.
But there does come a time where, as a human, you can't continue to shove more food in your body.
Yeah. It just says no.
And so, to keep that runway before you hit that mark as long as possible, you don't want to overshoot your initial surplus,
Yeah.
right? So let's say the maximum food that just you can shove in your body in a day is 6,000 calories. That's a lot of food. Okay. Like meals are going to start kind of going into your next meal time and that kind of stuff. And if you, let's say your maintenance is 2,000, which is really low.
Probably
Um,
mine. No way.
if your maintenance is 2,000 calories, oh, I guess that's what's considered the average
Two.
maintenance. Yes. Well, all our food stuff says
Yeah, that's
2,000
like the
calorie
recommended.
daily
Yeah.
intake. Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever.
Off based off that
2,000 is
2K.
low to me.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so let's say your maintenance is 2,000 calories. If you instantly just start eating 4,000 calories a day, you have chopped your runway to the maximum amount of food because your body's going to adjust. It will eventually adjust to just making that 4,000 calories maintenance. And you now only have 2,000 calories left of runway.
Hmm.
Where if your maintenance was 2,000 and you bumped to 2,500, you're now in a surplus. You will be putting on tissue of some kind, depending on how you train and what you're eating. Um, and you're going to grow.
Yeah.
And that gives you, and then your body will adapt, and 2,500 will be your maintenance. And then you bump it to 3,000. And then the same thing happens. Your body adapts. And then you bump to 35. And then
Yeah.
the same thing, and so on, right? And that's kind of how the progression of adding food into your diet goes
Yeah.
through an off season and reversely in a diet.
Yeah. I was
Um,
gonna say maybe we should cover the opposite too as well.
yeah. It follows just about the same principles.
Pretty much. Yeah. You just kind of inverse things a little bit.
Right. It literally goes the same way, both sides.
Yeah.
Because it's when it all comes down to it, it's energy in versus energy out.
Hmm. Yeah.
Food is energy.
Yeah.
You expend energy doing everything that you do in a day.
Hmm.
Um, but the time that your body takes to adapt to a 2,000 calorie jump versus doing that same 2,000 calories, but splitting it into 500 calorie jumps, you're going to adapt to the 4,000 much quicker, just because it is so much food that your body is going to feel the need to make the adjustment very quickly.
Yeah.
So
You're only gonna be able to tolerate that.
yeah, essentially what I'm saying is you're cutting your runway short,
Hmm.
right? If you do the 2,000 calorie jump, you're going to put on size,
Yeah.
right? You're probably going to put on a lot of fat, But if let's say you only have a 4-month off season before you have to diet for a show, which I wouldn't really recommend.
Yeah, you
Um,
probably you probably
if
should
you
swing.
if you have a lot of growing to do, you probably shouldn't do a show every year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Like every 4 months, 6 months, like not
yeah,
even like 3, 4 months, people are doing shows.
yeah. But for the people that are in the later end of their career, they've put on most of the muscle mass they're going to do, and they compete every year pretty regularly. Then a jump like that makes more sense, right?
Yeah.
Because they're trying to get the most out of this very small amount of time,
Hmm.
right? And who we're talking about, they're likely enhanced, which is
Okay.
then going to make coming back down and removing all of the excess fat that was put on a bit of a more streamlined process.
Yeah, as in it will be much easier.
It'll be a much quicker process.
Yeah, I completely agree. I actually didn't view this client or potential client as a gear lifter. I just thought of them as just straight up
Yep.
normie.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I think the fat is definitely something to think about too. Because
Right.
like if you put on more fat than is necessary than the goal that you're trying to achieve, then there's no point to do that unless you're just looking for more of a challenge. And like based off of the amount of fat cells that you have right now, if you just like 2K'd yourself, you just gave yourself an extra 2,000 calories, those fat cells are gonna fill right up to like
Yep.
pretty much their maximum amount. And there's two things. There's hypertrophy, which is a cell getting larger, and then there is hyperplasia, which is just the amount of cells increasing in number. Fat does not go away. It actually hyperplasias and hypertrophies. It does both. So it gets bigger
Nice.
and then it multiplies as well. So when you mass like this, if you mass really, really quickly, you're going to fill up all of your fat reserves. And then your body is going to make more of those little fat cells actually and fill those up as best they can. And then, fun fact, those fat cells actually don't go away, they just shrink. So you've now just given yourself more fat cells to further fill into later. Actually, something that I probably should do.
Yeah, maybe we'll put you on a 2,000 calorie
I need
surplus.
a 2K diet.
Yeah, so to kind of wrap that back up, um, I would say push. I'm not gonna say a little. I don't. When I say a little, I don't mean like 100 calories. I mean like 300 to 500,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Some people preach the 100 calorie surplus. I don't know if I quite agree with that one. I don't think it's enough. I think our bodies will make that adjustment and keep you at maintenance. I think maintenance is more of like a swinging number.
Hmm.
It's not so much like 2,467 calories is your maintenance. If
Yeah.
you eat 2,468, you're gonna grow. Like
Hmm.
I think it's a little bit more of a sliding number than that.
Yeah.
And I think 100 calories will just get swallowed up.
Hmm.
Um, that's I don't have any science behind that. That's my meathead, kind of thinking behind it. So
Yeah, I got a little sciencey with it.
yeah,
Hyperplasia.
yeah. I'm like, nah, you gotta just don't eat too much, but you definitely you gotta eat.
Pretty
Um,
much.
so yeah, if I had to recommend a number for a decent off season, I guess I'll also kind of prerequisite this with you should also keep inventory of how you're looking week to week.
Hmm.
You might have to pull back a little bit, and if you're eating five and you're like, oh, getting a little thick, a little too quick, you
Yeah.
just you pull back and go to 300.
Hmm.
So this isn't just like an end all be all number to just follow all the time. It'll be adjusted, but as just kind of like a standard, somewhere in the 300 to 500 calorie surplus is probably pretty decent.
Yeah. Yep. I
Um,
agree. I've
yeah.
never
So
heard of a 100K cal diet. The 100
really,
calorie surplus? Yeah, I've never heard of that.
yeah, is just something that kind of recently got. I think
It's like a quarter of a pound a week.
I don't even know if it's that.
It's yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's definitely not a half. 35.
No.
It takes. Fun fact: not outside of the bros. 3,500 kcals to burn 1 pound of fat. That is the number. So if you're in a 100 calorie surplus, is this? I'm guessing this is daily, right? Not weekly.
Yeah, daily.
All right. Yeah. So then spread across a week, that's around like 700, and then you double
700
that, that's around
calories.
14. Yeah. So it's like a little less than a quarter.
Yeah. It,
Like quick
I
math.
think I don't want to say any names because I don't remember exactly who it was. And even though like we don't have a following,
No names. No names.
I'm not trying to call anybody out. I
Yeah.
just think 100 calorie surplus is a little bit silly.
Yeah. I do
And
too.
yeah, it should be a little bit bigger than that.
I think that's a little bit too slow.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. I
Um,
have a question.
so,
If we're done here,
yeah, I think we covered that one pretty well.
still ballpark. What is the best way you'd go about finding your maintenance cows?
Pretty easy, actually.
It is pretty easy.
If you're starting in the, you have no idea at all.
I'm gonna adjust my back real quick.
Ooh,
You heard that?
dude, I heard that. That came over the podcast.
Cool.
Yikes.
Cool.
Oh my God.
This is Capo's Chiropractics come through. Uh,
Yeah.
Charging free cracks. Just come through.
So there's I guess there's two ways to do it. I do it one way. A lot of sciencey people like to do it another way. Some people like to plug a bunch of numbers into a calculator based on, activity, height, age, weight, and then it spits out a number that you're uh, resting.
Your
I don't
BMR.
know. Yeah, BMR. I don't know what it is.
Basal. Yeah, basal
That's
level.
it. Yeah, fucking herbs and stuff. Oh, I just said herb.
Yeah.
Anyway, they give that number, and then you'll start there. For myself, um, I don't know. I'm not completely clueless as to where. Let's say I'm setting up a client. You know, I collect all of those numbers, but I don't punch it into a calculator or anything. Just from those numbers, I pick a number.
Mm.
If generally it will be somewhere in between 2,000 and 3,000 calories a day. Most of my clients are younger, um, so that is to take into account. But I pick a number, right? And from that number, we see what happens to their weight the first week.
Yeah.
If it goes up the first week, we lower calories.
Yeah.
If it goes down the first week, we raise calories.
Cool.
And that's how you find maintenance. You don't
Super
push it up.
simple.
Depending on how quickly the loss or gain happened,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's how much you'll adjust your calories. If it was just a little bit, right? Change 100 calories a day.
Yeah.
If it was a lot, change 300, change 500, adjust from there. If it was like a little bit, I'd probably just leave it.
Yeah.
Just because there's general fluctuations, especially if they're starting new on a program and they're suddenly now drinking water and exercising, there's going to be some weight fluctuation there. And depending on how good they're doing about eating their meals right, is somebody eating at 11 o'clock at night where normally they ate at 8 p.m. All those things kind of come into play. So, but for the most part, if you're trying to figure out your own maintenance, pick a number. If the scale moves up, bring your calories down. If the scale moves down, bring your calories up. And eventually you'll find something that just kind of hovers.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's it. I
Yeah.
over-explained that for sure.
No, I think that's definitely like the best rough way to get there for sure. Like
Yeah.
100%. Like I would choose that route,
Yeah. You got to
honestly.
experiment with your body a little bit,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Generally, when I bring my clients, like that number that you like plug into your calculator, to be honest, is probably off by some amount, and is a really unimportant number, to
Yeah.
be honest, because things are going to change in like 2 weeks,
Yeah.
most likely. Um, Usually, what I would suggest to someone trying to find a maintenance cal, a little bit different of a way, just so that you have two different ways that you can pull from. Um, step on the scale, obviously, and then just kind of look at what you're eating. Like whatever you're like, don't change anything. Literally, don't change anything. Continue eating what you're eating, but then
Yeah.
kind of like
Track
track
it.
it. Yeah, exactly. Step on the scale every single day, and then after like 4 days to 7 days, you'll have your maintenance calories right there.
Yep.
Especially if your weight didn't fluctuate at all.
Yeah.
And
If your weight's staying the same.
yeah, which it should because you haven't changed anything, generally speaking. Unless you've been given like a caloric
Unless,
prescription.
yeah.
Then you might lose or gain. But that's also the thing. I tell my clients like in the first like 3 days or like just leading up into working with me, I'm like, don't change anything, just track for 3 days. Let me just see how many meals you're eating and what you're eating inside those meals, track
Yeah.
your weight, and let's just see what's good.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So those calculators, they're only so good, right?
Seriously.
Um, in my own example of myself, the things that I would have put into that calculator would not have changed, except my maintenance calories when I was dieting went from like 2,400 all the way down to like 1,300.
Mhm.
But none of those things in that calculator changed.
Yeah, because it didn't take
My
into account everything
it,
else.
it didn't take into account that I was eating in a deficit and then my body was adjusting to the being in that deficit.
Yeah, lowering it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you know, calculators are only so good. They can only take in so much information, right?
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Same thing with what's it called? Estimated calories off of like a treadmill. Like that is
Yeah.
also in the same department of
Take that with a
that
grain
is
of
not
salt.
right. That's just not
I
true. Yeah.
I would never track calories off of an exercise.
No.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
just manipulate your time and keep
Yeah.
your output, or I guess your intensity the same,
Yeah. Definitely.
right? Or change your intensity and keep the time the same.
Hmm.
You know,
Yep.
the goal of doing cardio, if you're in a deficit, um, is really just to create a greater energy expenditure,
Hmm.
which makes it one of the variables you can manipulate next to calories.
Yeah.
Um, but that's a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
All right.
I also would not use the number on that treadmill for
No,
anything. Yeah.
no. Just keep track of your time, you know, what speed you did it at, I suppose.
Yeah.
All right. Rapid fire question.
Oh.
What's your favorite burner on the stove?
Bottom left.
You're bottom left, I'm bottom right.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Well, hey, at least we'd be able to like cook something up together at least. Like
Could
we
cook
wouldn't be like
together.
hogging all, you've got
Nice.
my burner. Wouldn't be fighting over burners.
That's right.
Yo. Yeah, I'm
Um,
gonna make a rapid fire question up while we keep going through this.
I gotta. I'll have to put that on the story.
Yeah,
Favorite burner on the stove.
yeah,
I have a feeling most people are going to say bottom something. I think
yeah.
we cook on the one closest to us. Um, so I'll just say bottom left or bottom right, and we'll see who wins.
Yeah, it's so right though. Like definitely no one just is like, yeah, top right.
Top what? Top left. Yep.
I like to reach extra far.
All right. Serious question. Should new lifters train for strength benchmarks or hypertrophy?
Hmm. Um,
Under the assumption they want to be a bodybuilder. Let's narrow it.
okay. Train for strength in my opinion, but to an extent. Like don't train like a power lifter. You're training stuff like just completely like I don't think no shot to power lifters, but like a lot of the times the eccentric is just non-existent.
Yeah.
So that is like where muscle tissue actually gets broken down. So I think you should pay a little bit more attention to that part as well. But focusing on your strength, the hypertrophic gains should follow that strength as well. But if you focus purely on strength and you're just doing like 5-3-2-1 or some sort of like 5 sets of 2 or something like that, like you're probably not going to grow too much. So there has to be a happy medium of getting strong, building strength in different rep ranges, kind of like we already do. Like we build strength in the 6 to 8, which is like a little bit heavier, and then we build strength in the 12 to 15, even like 15 to 20, 20 to 25 sometimes, depending on kind of where your head's at, where your set's at, and your circumstances and things like that. But generally speaking, we stick to 6 to 8, 12 to 15, and we get as strong as humanly possible within those rep ranges. So that would be strength. But sometimes what I think people correlate strength with is just like a raw 1RM. And like
Yeah.
you're probably not going to grow too much with a raw 1RM. And if you're someone who isn't paying attention to their form, if you don't have those standards for the quality of your movement, and you're just kind of getting as much weight as you possibly can, then you're going to risk injury as well. And that's probably not going to help your bodybuilding gains either. So that's my hybrid answer, I think. Did I answer anything?
Yeah. I would agree. I think I'm going to kind of sum up what you said in a couple of words. Is don't try to specialize too early. Even if you think you want to be a bodybuilder, don't specialize your training yet. And just focus on progressive overload in all rep ranges.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
So that would be my answer there.
Mm-hmm.
Is don't necessarily hyper focus into one area or the other. Just focus on progressively getting stronger in both.
Yeah.
You know, get good at your compound movements, and whichever way you decide you want to end up going, you should be able to transition pretty nicely once you've actually mastered moving your body, I suppose.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and like your ability to like as you get more proficient with things, your ability to use the loads that you're using, um, you just get much better at kind of putting that load into the areas that it needs to go, which
Getting the most.
really does help. Yeah,
Yep,
definitely does help.
for
Um,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right. Would you
Oh.
rather piss yourself every time you stand up or every time you sit down?
Oh man. Um I'm gonna say the definitely A. I think I'd rather pee every
Yeah,
upon standing up every single time.
for sure. Every time.
Yeah, I just don't want I
Why?
definitely don't want to just like sit on a nice like chocolate swirly doo doo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
Because,
take
like,
A.
think about it. Every time you sit down, it's because you're sitting down so that you can spend time there.
Yeah.
Which means the whole time you'll have to just sit in your own shit. And I sit for like fucking 8 hours a day.
Hours. Yeah. That just reminded me of
Probably
that
more
South
than
Park
that.
episode
And
with what's his face? Fuck, I can't remember his name. Damn it. He's like, "Ma'am, give me the chocolate." Or
Carmen?
something like, what's his name?
Carmen?
Cartman. Yeah, Cartman. Yeah, and they're like, he's like playing World of Warcraft or whatever, and he like doesn't want to leave
Yeah.
he doesn't want to leave his game, and he's literally just like pooping himself while he's playing video games, and his mom's like, "Please go to the bathroom." He's like, "Mom, get out of here, get the bucket."
Yeah. And like, if I piss myself every time I stand up, I can just go change right then.
True. Yeah.
I'll just know not to sit down in public areas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
It won't be as smelly either.
no. No.
A little smelly, but not
No.
nearly as bad as like
You could definitely
shit
get
smell.
away with like a pee bag too.
True.
I couldn't imagine carrying around a shit bag. I'm gonna be honest.
True. Also true.
That one
Yeah.
wouldn't work as well because you would
No.
sit down and then you'd shit, and it wouldn't be able to go into a bag. So yeah, nah.
What if I
Pee is
want?
100% the way to go on that. I
Yeah.
hope none of you disagree.
Yeah.
All right, serious question.
Are these from people? Or is this you? This is from
Yep.
people?
Yep.
All
All right.
right.
What's better? 5 evenly balanced meals or 4 medium meals and the last one being big?
It would probably depend on if you're in a your goal. If you're, I mean, are calories equated for? I guess there's like so many things that you could like put it into a vacuum with, I guess. But generally speaking, the first one, just like eating some straight meals, would be probably better for maintenance or like losing a little bit of weight. And then the latter, just where you're kind of like getting in that what do you call it? Like a feeder meal, like a giant feeder meal, cheat meal, whatever you want to call it. That would be a little bit better for like the massing side of things, maybe.
I disagree with you,
Go ahead.
actually, on all
God
fronts.
damn it, Brady, you're not allowed to disagree with me. All
No,
right, let's hear it.
so I think I think you're letting the word big mean too much to you. It just means it's the biggest of the 5 meals.
Okay, so cows are equated for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, in which case, I think having 4 medium meals and the last one being big is the better way to go, and your training should be before that last big meal.
Okay.
You know,
Hmm.
so you have 4 medium-sized meals, or I guess evenly balanced meals, and then you train, and then that last meal is your big meal because you want the extra food because you're able to intake or uptake more after training. So
Hmm.
to get the most out of your training, you might as well have a big meal following it.
Okay.
See what I'm
All
saying
right.
there?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Definitely. Yeah. I
And
feel
I
like it's
think,
definitely somewhat circumstantial. Well, not even circumstantial, but like, just like the way that I was like thinking, I was thinking like that
yeah,
would just be like the surplus way, like that second way, and then the other way was like maintenancey.
right. Yeah. Um, even in a diet phase, you can still have a bigger meal in relation to your other meals,
Hmm.
which I would put right after training.
Yeah. Like if you had
Yeah.
like no carbs in meals, like the first four meals, and then
Yeah.
all your carbs in like that last one or something like
In
that.
in the post workout. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I would do.
Hmm.
Um,
Would you rather have those carbs in you before, or would you rather them after?
I actually in my diet, I put most of them before,
Yeah. Yeah.
just because I needed them to get through my training. I
For the
think it
performance.
yeah, it depends on how low you're actually going, right? I was down to like 60 grams of carbs,
Yeah. You can only do so much with that.
right? And so I was like, I'll put it before my training in hopes that it will allow me to have a good training session,
Hmm.
you know? And so that's why I did it that way. I don't, I don't know if the next time I'll maybe just try and do it, have it afterwards to try and get the benefit of the uptake after training, to really get the most out of those carbs, and kind of more depend on my pre-workout and maybe a light intra,
Yeah, that's definitely something to consider too. If you had like a
right? So I
nice.
think I think the next time around probably have it set up that way. Um, but I managed just fine.
Hmm.
My really so
Word.
I don't know. It's something to play around with, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But I would say on generally in a bodybuilding meathead vacuum, I would pick 4 meals and one big one versus 5 meals that are all the same.
Gotcha.
Just to
Honestly,
take advantage of uptake.
yeah. I think I would choose the former. I would go just 4 plain meal or 5 plain meals
Really?
that are all the same. Yeah. Um I don't know my reasoning behind that is just for the performance aspect of things and the fact that if energy is equated for, I guess there wouldn't necessarily be too much of a difference. Like if calories are equated for and those carbohydrates are only coming in after, then your performance might take a dip. But if you have like a steady stream, you might have, a fine session because those carbs are already in, and then you'll probably take in all of those nutrients in that last meal, obviously. Um, that's just my thought process behind it.
How how low are you thinking right now?
Honestly, I wasn't even thinking low anymore. I'm thinking that like each of these meals are like 50 grams of carbs each. So like 50, 50, 50, 50. And the other thing, so like if you have like a good amount of carbs in you, like even the day prior, like
Yeah.
glycogen stores are actually much easier to to fill up than I think we thought initially. Like
Yeah.
it like if our bodies are pretty good at like taking glycogen from things like even like um protein. Like people that are
Mhm.
on keto diets that smash a shit ton of protein, like there's this thing inside of you called gluconeogenesis, which is basically just saying that like you can make sugar from almost anything. You can make carbs from almost anything that you take in, protein included and fats included.
Mhm.
So like our body is able to kind of make glucose, relatively easily. So I'm just thinking about the glucose side of things and having glycogen inside of the muscle for our training session before.
Yeah. I think in a maintenance or a surplus, I think you're already full almost all the time.
All the time. Yeah,
Yeah.
that wouldn't even
And
matter.
which I don't know, I think that goes more for my side of saying because it's not saying you don't have carbs in your other meals. It's just
Mm,
saying you have one meal that's like bigger than the
yeah,
rest, right?
yeah,
It's like so let's see, 5 meals, 50 grams, 250 grams of carbs a day is what you just, 50, 50, 50, 50, right? Let's say instead you had 30, 30, 30, 30, 90,
yeah.
right?
I would side with that
Yeah.
instead of. Oh, that's hard. What was that? Is 30 30 30 90? Is that 250?
30, 30, 30, 30, 90.
3,
There's
6,
20
9,
off each one,
12.
40. Oh, no, 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 no,
This
no.
is this is
110.
not
110.
110. That's a total of 110.
No, no, no. Your last meal would be 110. So 30,
Oh,
30, 30,
okay.
30,
110.
110
Okay.
would be
Opposed
250.
to just like 50, 50, 50, 50, 50.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm honestly not either one.
So
Either
really
one
what
works
we're
for me
saying,
because I don't see performance taking a dip. Um,
either way.
yeah, either way.
Yeah.
And especially because the whole like cows are equated for kind of a thing as well. That's also kind of like the pinnacle of that's like the top of the pyramid, I
Right.
would
Yeah.
guess.
So this is such like a nitty-gritty question.
Yeah,
And like
very
it
circumstantial.
would be such a minute difference.
Mhm.
Um, that probably for anybody listening to this, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, pretty
it
much.
it doesn't matter if you're starving after training and you want to just have a massive meal, then set it up that way. But if you'd rather
Yeah,
just have 5 meals that are exactly the same, then set it up that way.
yeah.
As long as at the end of the day your numbers are the same.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
What would you call them? Random question? Fire random. What are they called?
Rapid fire question?
Rapid fire question.
Bam, 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 bam,
All
bam.
right.
We'll have to have these in every episode. Rapid
I
fire.
agree. Yeah, a few of them. Brady, would you rather have a massive chest but a tiny back, or a massive Dorian Yates back but a tiny little bitty chest?
Definitely a massive back.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
You'd be like,
Yeah, no, I would definitely choose having a back over having a chest.
Mhm.
You know, I even my arms are still good, my legs are still good.
No, you're you right now, but you just get a massive
I just
back.
have a massive back.
Yeah, like literally just outshadows everything.
Okay. I still think from a physique standpoint, having a massive back would be far better um, than having a massive chest and no back.
I actually kind of agree.
You'd literally just look like you have tits.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Like,
kind of agree.
yeah, definitely
I
back.
I think a back looks cooler than a chest too, in my opinion.
It
Like there's
does.
just so much going on, like the lats, the erectors, mid, I think that's yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you put a Dorian Yates back on me right now, it looks stupid.
You
Okay,
probably look like a Ninja Turtle.
but I would look like a Ninja Turtle. But if I had, let's say I had proportionate legs and arms, and I had a massive back, but I just had like the shit chest,
Mm,
I think I would be far more competitive in shows, and probably still could even win some shows that way than if I had a big chest and no back.
mm,
Because the back is there's so many important shots that revolve around having a good back. Where your chest you can kind of get away with it a little bit more. It obviously you aren't going to be Mr. Olympia because you have to have it all. But I think I would do better as a competitor if I had a big back versus a
yeah.
big chest.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm also gonna go with a big back or a
Yeah,
big chest.
for sure.
Yeah. I've also heard that shows are won from the back. You've probably heard that
They
too.
do say that. They
They
do
do
say
say
that.
that.
Yeah. Not if you only have a back though. You can't
Yeah,
you can't
true.
can't look
You
like a
gotta
Ninja
have it all.
Turtle. Right. But if it comes down to being close, it's generally whose back shots were better.
Mm.
Um okay. I have Actually I don't have all of my answer to this, but I have most of my answer to this. Ooh, maybe not now that I think about it. Okay, if you could only do 5 exercises for the rest of your life, what are they and why?
Uh, yeah, I just like went right back to like the basics, I guess. Um,
That was also my initial thought.
yeah. All right, I'm gonna fall into the pitfall because you clearly have a little bit more to add there. I'm gonna say, and I have to be very particular. Like, I can't just say like squat. All right, so I'd probably just say like high bar back squat, RDL, barbell row. I don't like overhead pressing with a bar. Barbell overhead press.
You don't have to do it with a bar. It just says what 5 exercises.
I'm choosing between a barbell and a dumbbell overhead press, I guess. And I'm just thinking like I'd probably get more out of a barbell after a while. Um, and I might be missing one. And calf raises. There's one more that I'm missing though, but calves, just because I don't want to just like completely neglect my calves.
Did you say barbell row?
Yeah,
Okay. Squat. RD.
squat, RDL, barbell row, barbell overhead press, calves.
Calves.
So I'm missing a vertical pull there.
That's all right.
I've got my hip hinge, I've got my squat variation, a row, a press. Oh, what the fuck? Oh, high incline barbell press. That's what I'll do instead of that overhead press,
Yeah, that's a good one.
and then some calves or a rack chin.
You're probably gonna have some shit rear delts, but that's okay.
No.
No, with 5 exercises,
Yeah, you can only
um,
do so
you'll
much.
you'll probably get some from your barbell row, so
Yeah,
it's all right.
maybe.
Um, it's hard because I was probably going to say almost the same exact thing, but then I kind of thought about like longevity and how taxing those movements are. I
Yeah.
was like, well, what if I switched out my barbell squat for like a Smith squat? And I don't know, I kind of want to use the Smith machine for more things.
Okay.
Like like a Smith squat and then maybe a Smith incline press and then an RDL and then a barbell row.
Okay. Off the Smith.
No, 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 no. RDL and barbell row are free.
Okay.
You kind of got me with the calves there. You threw me for a loop
I
on that
know.
one.
It's like my calves. No.
I know. Now I'm thinking. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe, maybe they'll get no. I'm like, maybe no.
Yeah, no. Don't say
Like maybe they'll
it.
grow from doing RDLs.
I was thinking like if you made it like an Olympic RDO, where you kind of like gave a
Yeah,
little traps, gave a little bit of calves in there, maybe.
yeah. Clean and jerk. There we go.
Yeah, there you go. There
Just
it
do
is.
all Olympic lifts. Yeah, I'd probably do like seated calf raises.
Mhm.
So pretty similar. I just moved to Smith
Yeah,
for a
Smith
little bit of
also.
like longevity and safety
Yeah,
as I get old.
I would side with you on that as well.
I actually really like using a Smith machine.
It's been a while since I've used a Smith for anything other than a rack chin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just like sometimes it's nice to not have to think about bar path as
Hmm.
much. And like it just helps create like your rep standardization and you can put a little bit more focus on the muscle, I suppose, or really getting a good initiation and really feeling your eccentric and really slowing it down. Um, I just think it's really good for those things because you're not going to have you know other things around you fail as quickly as you
Hmm.
do with an open bar. Um, so that's why I chose those. Well, one of the reasons um, over like a free bar.
Word. Yeah. I like that idea too. Kind of taking out that back squat, switching it for a little smithy.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be opposed to that.
yeah. I think actually I have to do some of those today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I put them in my program.
Good shit. Nice. Here,
I feel.
1 second, Brady.
Yep.
Um, uh,
Oh. Got people singing in the background. This is a quick commercial break. Just to remind you, if you're enjoying this episode, to hit that subscribe button. If you're listening to us and our beautiful voices, make sure to leave a rating and review. Follow, download the podcast. I'm not really sure how the algorithm works, but we would greatly appreciate it. And because we really enjoy getting on here, chatting, answering some questions. If you have questions that you'd like to ask us, I'll link our Instagrams in the description, and then you can ask your questions to us. We put up question polls, and yeah, welcome back, Brandon.
Thank you.
I was just doing a quick commercial break there.
I heard. I know. I just left as you were like, "Welcome to our commercial break." Sorry.
I was telling the people to and subscribe and all those fun things, rating, reviews, and then if they have questions to send them to our Instagrams.
It would be much appreciated.
Yeah, they're
Very much
fun.
appreciated.
Yeah. As you can see from today, you can ask us any kind of question you want.
Yep.
We'll answer it to the best of our ability. The would you rather's are fun. It's fun to throw some fun questions in there, and just be a little bit meatheadish every once in a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man.
But I'm actually out of questions that I have written down
Yep.
today.
And I am hungry.
You're
Yeah.
hungry. Nice. I got to train.
Facts.
We've been
Brady.
on here for an hour and a half.
Yep.
So that means we've met the quota.
Let's go. Thanks for tuning in today, guys.
Yeah.
We do appreciate. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Brady.
Thanks for coming through.
We'll catch you guys next week.
Peace.
Later.